谢谢这些网友们对于我们的支持。稍后在华尔街联报，我们继续为您带来过去24小时的最新消息报道以及智库讨论。
观众朋友，大家好，欢迎收看今天的新风视线。随着周五中国商务部出台对部分石墨的出口管制措施，引起全球电池行业的恐慌，人们也越来越关注中国在哪些方面已经主宰世界。比如，中国已经在全球石墨市场上拥有最大发言权，这对电动汽车行业来说至关重要。华盛顿邮报近期就推出了系列报道，关于中国是如何在各个领域在全世界扩张影响力的。华盛顿邮报的中国分社社长莉莉郭最近前往了牙买加金斯顿，因为那里是国际海底管理局的所在地。该机构是负责监管深海采矿的联合国机构。他研究了中国如何在这个行业中发挥巨大作用，从而使其能够主导稀有金属行业。而稀有金属对于军事和民用的下一代技术来说至关重要。上个月，中国最先进的深海考察船之一大洋号前往了日本和夏威夷之间28500平方英里的太平洋海域。中国拥有在那里勘探块状岩石的独家权利，这些岩石已经有数百万年的历史，价值数万亿美元。这是中国于2019年赢得的最新合同，旨在勘探多金属结合。这些金属结合富含锰、钴、镍和铜等金属元素，从电动汽车到先进武器等各种设备都需要这些金属。它们现在正诱人地躺在海底，等待着被提取。北京正在努力推动深海采矿业的发展。中国已经持有国际海底管理局迄今为止颁发的30个勘探许可证中的5个，是所有国家中最多的。中国可以最早于2025年开始进行深海采矿，届时中国将拥有挖掘92000平方英里国际海底的专有权，这一面积相当于一个英国的大小，占国际海底管理局目前许可总面积的17%。海底正在成为全球资源竞争的下一个战场，而中国将在其中占据主导地位。科学家相信，海洋中这些稀有金属的储量是陆地储量的数倍。这些稀有金属对于当今几乎所有的电子产品、清洁能源和先进的计算机芯片都是至关重要的。随着各国竞相减少温室气体的排放，对这些矿物的需求预计将会猛增。而在深海采矿开始之前，中国已经控制了全球95%的稀土金属供应，并且生产了全球3/4的锂离子电池。采矿业将为北京在与美国不断升级的竞争中提供一个强有力的工具。作为对美国芯片出口管制的回应，中国8月份开始限制镓合锗的出口，本周五又开始限制石墨的出口，这就是这些资源开始武器化的一个迹象。美国和平研究所中国问题专家费里曼表示，如果中国能够在海底采矿领域占据领先地位，那么它就真正掌握了21世纪绿色经济所有关键矿产的获取权。被标记为可以采矿的区域虽然不到国际海底总面积的1%，但是仍然很大。这30个勘探合同覆盖面积54万平方英里，集中在太平洋，其钴储量是所有陆地储量的6倍，镍是陆地储量的3倍。为了在该行业占据主导地位，中国将工作重点放在了总部位于牙买加金斯顿的国际海底管理局上。该管理局俯瞰着加勒比海。关键是，美国不是国际海底管理局的成员，而中国是该组织中迄今为止最强大的参与者。通过在该组织中发挥影响力，中国政府有机会制定对其有利的国际规则。这种做法是习近平争取全球领先地位的关键。作为中国几十年来最强大的领导人，习近平决心将中国转变为一个不再受制于西方的全球大国，包括成为一个能够在军事上与美国竞争的海上强国。南京大学中国南海研究中心的执行主任朱峰说，如果你想成为世界强国，你就必须维护你的海上通道和利益，因此成为海洋强国是必须的。目前为止，美国几乎没有对中国在深海的举动做出任何回应，它只是国际海底管理局的观察员。这也就意味着，随着这个行业规则的制定，美国有被边缘化的风险。 与中国不同，美国公司没有与国际海底管理局签订任何勘探合同。批评者警告，华盛顿缺乏在这个新兴行业竞争的计划。卡内基国际和平基金会的高级研究员卡登说，如果我们不制定规则，中国就会制定规则。这些是国际法的前沿领域，目前还没有明显的制度，而且特别有吸引力的是，美国不在那里。无论未来大国竞争是关于什么，这里都是一个明显的前沿领域。前海底管理局的工作人员称，北京通过各种渠道悄悄发挥着影响力，包括举办研讨会和各种晚宴。曾经在海底管理局担任高级职务的官员表示，中国有一个非常强大且长期的议程。他说，中国的进程总是非常缓慢且坚定，他们会继续推进。国际海底管理局表示，截至2021年，中国已经成为该组织行政预算的最大贡献者。北京定期向海底管理局进行各种捐款，并且于2020年宣布与海底管理局在中国港口城市青岛建立联合培训中心。德国的海洋治理专家辛格自2018年以来一直参加海底管理局的会议。他表示，很明显，当中国发声音时，每个人都会尽量倾听，并且试图配合。在西方对联合国系统的参与度不断下降之际，中国学者和官员一直在推动在国际组织中发挥更大的作用，这也是响应习近平关于提高北京国际影响力的呼吁。海底管理局的秘书处有52名工作人员，其中有2个职位由中国公民担任，法律事务委员会和财务事务委员会也各有1名中国公民。秘书长迈克尔·洛奇表示，这些机构中总是有中国提名的专家。密切关注这方面的专家警告，北京的做法具有战略意义。美国海军战争学院的国际法教授彼得·达顿表示，中国可能是国际海底管理局中最活跃的国家。中国人正在做的非常有效的事情之一，就是参与规则的制定，并且制定有利于中国利益的法规。他提醒美国，中国已经走在我们的前面。对于中国来说，深海采矿从来不是完全为了自然资源，它还涉及颠覆西方主导的传统国际秩序。在20世纪60年代和70年代，研究人员意识到海洋矿产资源的丰富程度，谁拥有这些资源的权利问题就变成了一种意识形态问题。美国等富裕国家希望按照先到先得的原则来进行运作，而中国这个发展中国家则站在全球南方国家一边，并且表示应该分享战利品。最终中方获胜。1982年达成的联合国海洋法公约已经得到了大多数国家的批准。美国承认该公约，但是尚未批准，部分原因是反对其有关海底采矿的条款。根据这一公约，国际海底管理局于1994年成立，负责监督深海采矿。中国是最早向海底管理局派出常驻代表团的国家之一。中国的官方媒体称，联合国海洋法公约是反对海洋霸权的胜利，而中国国家海洋局局长则称，这是形成了国际海洋新秩序。中国加入了深海竞赛，并且在过去几十年里稳步加大对技术和设备的投资，赶上了一直遥遥领先的西方竞争对手，并且在某些领域已经超越他们。2001年，中国获得了第1张金属勘探许可证。中国目前拥有至少12所致力于深海研究的机构。环保人士表示，深海采矿将会损害海洋生物，采矿平台、机械和运输船也会增加噪音和污染。但是中国在今年7月份的相关会议上成功阻止了暂停深海采矿的讨论。中国官员表示，环境保护必须与发展需求相平衡。而支持海底采矿的人士则称，深海采矿是世界上唯一一个在出现之前就受到监管的行业，并且对于电动汽车和其他清洁技术来说，深海采矿是十分必要的。时任中国大洋协会主席的刘峰在2021年曾经写道，在国际深海规则的制定上，中国的声音正越来越大。中国现在将自己定位为准备向其他国家传授海洋知识的领导者。中国的国产潜水器能够潜入地球最深点马里亚纳海沟底部超过35000英尺。中国的国家安全法规现在将国际海底列为必须保护的资产和利益。中国中央军事委员会已经将深海确定为新的战场。 中国的学术、商业和军事部门之间有着密切的联系。中国一些最雄心勃勃的深海采矿项目都得到了军事研究计划的资助。这些密切的联系使得人们很难知道中国深海调查船是在为科学目的还是军事目的来收集数据。包括大洋1号在内的中国深海调查船近年来冒险进入了菲律宾、马来西亚、日本、台湾、帕劳和美国的专属经济区。海上专家表示，很可能其中许多调查既是科学的，又是军事的，或者说是商业的。2021年底，大洋1号突然驶离中国拥有主权的海域，径直向北行驶，越过了夏威夷附近的美国专属经济区，并且在那里航行了5天，在檀香山以南绕了一圈。而美国当时没有收到中国要求在美国专属经济区进行科学研究的请求。这次绕道将可能使中国有机会了解夏威夷周围的海底地形、海军行动的条件以及潜艇如何进出等等。而这种越界的行为，随着深海采矿成为现实，只会变得越来越紧迫。南京大学南海研究中心的主任朱峰说，对中国来说，随着中国成为海洋强国，如何以及能否与美国建立合作，无疑将是一个最大的难题。以上就是今天新风事件的全部内容，感谢您的收看。这里是华尔街电视，如果喜欢记得点赞并且订阅我们的频道。我们下期节目再见。
When the 5,100-ton Daeonghao, one of China's most advanced deepwater expedition vessels, left port south of Shanghai 2 months ago, a red and white banner, the kind used to blast Communist Party exhortations, reminded the crew of their mission: strive, explore, contribute. The Daeonghao was bound for a 28,500 square mile stretch of the Pacific Ocean between Japan and Hawaii, where China has exclusive rights to prospect for lumpy, golf ball-size rocks that are millions of years old and worth trillions of dollars. It is China's latest contract, won in 2019, to explore forked polymetallic nodules, which are rich in manganese, cobalt, nickel and copper metals needed for everything from electric cars to advanced weapons systems. They lie temptingly on the ocean floor, just waiting to be hoovered up. Whether working deep at sea or on land at the headquarters of the United Nations Seabed Regulator here in Kingston, Beijing is striving to get a jump on the burgeoning industry of deep-sea mining. China already holds 5 of the 30 exploration licenses that the International Seabed Authority, ISA, has granted to date, the most of any country, in preparation for the start of deep-sea mining as soon as 2025. When that happens, China will have exclusive rights to excavate 92,000 square miles of international seabed, about the size of the United Kingdom, or 17% of the total area currently licensed by the ISA. The ocean floor is shaping up to be the world's next theater of global resource competition, and China is set to dominate it. The sea is believed to hold several times what land does of these rare metals, which are critical for almost all of today's electronics, clean energy products, and advanced computer chips. As countries race to cut greenhouse gas emissions, demand for these minerals is expected to skyrocket. When deep-sea mining begins, China, which already controls 95% of the world's supply of rare earth metals and produces 3/4 of all lithium-ion batteries, will extend its chokehold over emerging industries like clean energy. Mining will also give Beijing a potent new tool in its escalating rivalry with the United States. As a sign of how these resources could be weaponized, China in August started restricting exports of 2 metals that are key to U.S. defense systems. If China can take the lead in seabed mining, it really has the lock-on access to all the key minerals for the 21st century green economy, said Carla Freeman, senior expert for China at the United States Institute of Peace. In the case of polymetallic nodules, that means sending robotic vehicles as deep as 18,000 feet to the vast, dark seafloor, where they will slowly vacuum up about 4 inches of seabed, then pump it up to a ship. The area marked for mining, though less than 1% of the total international seabed, would still be huge. The 30 exploration contracts cover 540,000 square miles but are concentrated in an expanse of the Pacific called the Clarion-Clipperton Zone. Spanning 3,100 miles, it is wider than the contiguous United States and contains up to 6 times the cobalt and 3 times the nickel in all land-based reserves. In its quest to dominate this industry, China has focused its efforts on the Kingston-based ISA, housed in a weathered limestone building overlooking the Caribbean Sea. By wielding influence at an organization where it is by far the most powerful player, the United States is not a member of the ISA. Beijing has a chance to shape international rules to its advantage. This approach is key to Xi Jinping's bid for global preeminence. China's strongest leader in decades, Xi is set on transforming China into a global power that is no longer beholden to the West, including by becoming a maritime power able to compete militarily with the United States. If you want to become a global power, you have to maintain the security of your sea lanes and interests. So becoming a maritime power is inevitable, said Zhu Feng, executive director of the China Center for Collaborative Studies of the South China Sea at Nanjing University. The United States has done little to respond to China's moves in the deep sea. It is only an observer at the ISA, meaning it's at risk of being sidelined as the rules for this future industry are being made. Unlike China, U.S. companies do not have any exploration contracts with the ISA, and critics say Washington lacks a clear plan on how to compete in this new industry. The logic is that if we don't make the rules, they will, said Isaac Carden, the author of China's Law of the Sea and a senior fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. These are frontier areas of international law where there's not an obvious regime, and it's especially appealing because the U.S. isn't there, he said. It's an obvious front in whatever this great power competition is. It was almost 9 on a mid-July evening when Go Haiba, tall and lean in a dark suit, emerged from more than 6 hours of closed-door talks at ISA headquarters. The Chinese delegation member stopped to smoke a cigarette in a garden outside the main hall, where he would present his country's case on the issue at hand, how to open up the international seabed, which covers more than half the planet, to industrial mining. The ISA is under pressure to come up with rules after the Pacific island of Nauru, partnering with Canadian firm The Metals Company, in 2021 triggered a provision that requires the organization to allow mining within 2 years, even if a regulatory code is not in place. ISA member countries must come to an agreement on a final code or face the possibility of mining proceeding unrestricted. For now, further discussion of the 2-year rule has been shunted to next year. China, according to Go, wants things to move faster. He took issue with the group's declaration, after days of negotiation, that countries intend to agree on a set of regulations by the end of 2025. The Chinese delegation still prefers the original term, commits, Go told the meeting. Otherwise, he said, it seems a little unclear what we are going to do in the coming months or in the coming years. China's stance was an example of the persistence with which its diplomats work to be heard and to direct proceedings at the ISA. Delegates and former ISA staffers describe Beijing as wielding quiet influence through various channels, including by hosting workshops and dinners lubricated by baijiu, the notoriously strong Chinese liquor. Sandor Mulso, who held senior positions at the ISA from 2013 to 2019, said China has a very strong and long-term agenda. China always works very slowly and surely, and they keep going, he said. As of 2021, China became the biggest contributor to the organization's administrative budget, the ISA said. Beijing regularly donates to various ISA funds and, in 2020, announced a joint training center with the ISA in the Chinese port city of Qingdao. It's quite clear that when China speaks, everyone tends to listen and tries to accommodate, said Pradeep Singh, an expert on ocean governance with the Research Institute for Sustainability in Germany who has been attending ISA meetings since 2018. In July, the Chinese delegation showed up in force. It included representatives from the country's foreign and natural resources ministries, its permanent mission to the ISA, and the 3 state-run companies that control the country's 5 exploration contracts. At a time when Western participation in the UN system is declining, Chinese scholars and officials have been pushing for a bigger role at organizations like the ISA, heeding Xi's call to improve Beijing's international clout. On the 52-member staff of the ISA's Secretariat, which administers the organization, 2 positions are held by Chinese nationals. A commission on legal affairs and a committee on financial matters include 1 Chinese national each. Experts nominated by China are always in those bodies, according to Secretary General Michael Lodge. If you have people in those positions, you're going to know everything that's going on, said James McFarlane, head of the Office of Resources and Environmental Monitoring at the ISA from 2009 to 2011. Asked whether China exercises more influence because of its financial contributions, Lodge said, "Every state participates to the extent that it decides to do so." China's foreign ministry, the Chinese embassy in Jamaica, and the 3 Chinese contractors did not respond to multiple requests for interviews. Delegates at the meetings in Kingston declined to speak on the record. But experts who are watching closely say that Beijing is being strategic in its approach. China is probably the single most active country in the ISA, said Peter Dutton, a professor of international law at the U.S. Naval War College. One of the things that the Chinese are doing very effectively is engaging in the rulemaking and writing regulations that can favor their interests. They're out there ahead of us, and that's one area we need to be concerned about. For China, deep-sea mining has never been entirely about natural resources. It has also been about overturning the traditional international order dominated by the West. In the 1960s and 1970s, as researchers realized the extent of the ocean's mineral wealth, the question over who has a right to those resources became ideological. Rich countries like the United States wanted to operate on a first-come, first-served basis, while China, a developing country, sided with global South nations and said the spoils should be shared. China's side won, and the UN Convention on the Law of the Seas, UNCLOS, agreed upon in 1982, has been ratified by most countries. The United States recognizes the convention but has not ratified it, in part because of opposition to its provisions on seabed mining. Under the convention, the ISA was established in 1994 and charged with overseeing deep-sea mining. U.S. critics say acceding to the treaty would undermine U.S. sovereignty on the high seas by handing power to the ISA. China was one of the first countries to send a permanent mission to the ISA. The Chinese Communist Party's official newspaper declared UNCLOS a victory against maritime hegemony, while the head of China's State Oceanic Administration called it the formation of a new international maritime order. China joined the deep-sea race and has spent the past few decades steadily investing more in technology and equipment, catching up with its Western rivals who had been far ahead and, in some areas, surpassing them. In 2001, the country's first deep-sea mining contractor, China Ocean Mineral Resources Research and Development Association, or COMRA, won China's first license to explore for polymetallic nodules. China is now home to at least 12 institutions dedicated to deep-sea research. One of them, a sprawling campus in Wuxi, Jiangsu Province, plans to hire 4,000 people by 2025. Dozens of colleges have sprung up to focus on marine sciences. In a speech in 2016, Xi talked about accessing the treasures of the ocean and ordered his country to master key technologies for entering the deep sea. At the heart of the debate about deep-sea mining is whether this can be done in a way that doesn't harm ocean ecosystems and species. Scientists say this kind of activity on the seafloor will destroy a library of information important to medical breakthroughs, understanding the origins of life, and other advances. Environmentalists say deep-sea mining will disturb the world's largest natural carbon sink, which absorbs 1/3 of carbon dioxide generated on land. Mining platforms, machinery and transport ships will add to noise and pollution that damage marine life. In addition to polymetallic nodules, 2 other types of deposits are being considered for ocean mining: polymetallic sulfides, found in hydrothermal vents, and metal-rich cobalt crusts, which lie in hardened layers along underwater mountains. Both will be even harder to mine. Environmentalists also worry that China's history of privileging industry over the environment will lead to diluted regulations. Residents and authorities in southeastern China are still grappling with the widespread soil and water pollution caused by a boom in mining for rare earth metals starting in the 1990s. Over the 3-week session in July, Chinese delegates advised the ISA to be prudent in levying financial punishments on contractors that violate rules. The delegation opposed the creation of an independent commission to ensure companies follow environmental regulations. For the entire last week of the meeting, China single-handedly blocked debate on maritime protection, including discussion of a moratorium on deep-sea mining, a proposal that is now supported by 22 countries concerned about environmental damage. Chinese officials often say environmental preservation must be balanced against the need for development, an approach that concerns other delegates, If you balance these, then it would not be effective. It's a mandate of UNCLOS, said Gina Guillén-Grillo, head of the Costa Rican delegation, citing UNCLOS Article 145, which says countries must ensure effective protection for the marine environment from harmful effects. You have to comply with it, and once you comply with it, you can mine, she said. It's not like you can mine a little and comply a little. But proponents say that deep-sea mining is the world's only industry to be regulated before it exists and that it is necessary for the electric cars and other technologies that will help avert climate disaster. Contractors like the Metals Company, the only firm to test a full deep-sea mining system in the Clarion-Clipperton Zone, are ahead in the technology race, but Chinese companies are catching up. They are starting to build momentum, said Gerard Barron, CEO of the Metals Company, referring to the 3 Chinese firms in control of China's exploration claims. We are seeing, certainly, an increase in activity. They now have substantial budgets that they didn't have 2 years ago. In 2021, China's COMRA tested a system to collect polymetallic nodules at a depth of 4,200 feet in the East and South China Seas. When it comes to writing international deep-sea rules, China's voice is getting stronger, Lu Feng, then head of COMRA, wrote in a 2021 paper. China is now positioning itself as a leader ready to teach other countries about the sea. Its domestically produced submersibles are capable of diving more than 35,000 feet to the bottom of the Mariana Trench, the deepest point on Earth. Now we have this equipment, we can make up for lost time, Wang Pinxian, a Chinese marine geologist who spearheaded some of China's earliest deep-sea programs, said in an interview. China can be its own master and can host and work with people from developing countries. While the Dayanghao was prospecting for polymetallic nodules in the past few months, Beijing Pioneer High-Tech Development, the Chinese contractor in control of that claim area, was testing a high-precision survey system that can operate at depths of more than 19,000 feet. The vessel had students from Kenya, Argentina, Nigeria, and Malaysia on board, where they studied the ocean and played tug-of-war, according to state media. Such benign descriptions belie what researchers say is the other clear purpose of China's deep-sea program, to develop military advantages in the ocean. The research needed to prepare for deep-sea mining, measuring the acoustics or temperature of currents, mapping the topography, and developing equipment that can operate under high pressure at low visibility, is the same as that needed for underwater warfare. When they're sending submersibles, the planners behind it are thinking about minerals, but they're also thinking about how to take advantage of the deep sea for military advantage, not just anti-submarine warfare but also for their submarines, said Alexander Gray, a former White House National Security Council official now at the American Foreign Policy Council. China has also signaled that it's thinking this way. China's national security law now includes the international seabed as an area where Chinese assets and interests must be guarded. China's Central Military Commission, which oversees the country's armed forces, has identified the deep sea as a new battlefield. Chinese scholars have flagged the importance of polymetallic nodules for military and aerospace equipment, while China's People's Liberation Army noted the opportunities of the deep sea for modern warfare in a 2022 article. There are close connections among China's academic, commercial, and military sectors, and several of the country's most ambitious deep-sea mining projects have been funded under military research programs. China Minmetals, one of the contractors in control of China's deep-sea exploration licenses, carried out mining tests under the 863 program, a government initiative to develop cutting-edge technology for national security. These close links make it difficult to know when Chinese deep-sea survey ships are collecting data for scientific or military purposes. According to ship tracking data collected by Global Fishing Watch and the Benioff Ocean Science Laboratory at the University of California at Santa Barbara, Chinese deep-sea survey vessels, including the Dayanghao, have in recent years ventured into the exclusive economic zones of the Philippines, Malaysia, Japan, Taiwan, Palau, and the United States. One of those ships, the Kishua, did surveying for 20 days in July and August 2022 near the Scarborough Shoal, one of the most contested areas in the South China Sea and the site of an ongoing showdown between China and the Philippines, which both claim the atoll. The Dayanghao also appeared to conduct ocean bed surveying in exclusive economic zones of the Philippines and Malaysia, near the disputed Spratly Islands. Under international law, it is illegal to conduct commercial or scientific research in another country's exclusive economic zone without permission. Harrison Pretat, Associate Director of the Asia Maritime Transparency Initiative at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, said China's vast fleet of survey vessels could be collecting information for the Chinese military. In all likelihood, many of these surveys are both scientific and military, or commercial and military, Pretat said. At the end of 2021, a sister vessel of the Dayanghao, the Dayangihao, was exploring the Clarion-Clipperton zone as part of a 4-month expedition by China Minmetals when it suddenly traveled away from China's claim area, heading straight north. It crossed into the U.S. exclusive economic zone near Hawaii, where it traveled for 5 days, tracing a loop just south of Honolulu, before returning to its claim area. The State Department did not receive a request from China to conduct scientific research in the U.S. zone on those dates, a spokesperson said. The detour would have given researchers a chance to understand the seabed topography around Hawaii, or the conditions of naval operations and how submarines move in and out. The U.S. would be concerned if any state-owned vessel was close, said Thomas Shugart, a former U.S. Navy submarine warfare officer and an adjunct senior fellow at the Center for a New American Security. Such movements are a concern for both countries and one that will only become more pressing as deep-sea mining becomes a reality. For China, as it becomes a maritime power, said Zhu, of Nanjing University, how and whether it can establish a mechanism for working with the United States is definitely a difficult problem.
各位观众朋友大家好，欢迎回到沙伦一报，我是节目主持人沙伦。在今天的节目里呢，咱们就来讲一讲巴黎美食。在巴黎，当然您可以攀登埃菲尔铁塔，漫步香榭丽舍大街，然后在巴黎度过剩下的时间，沉浸在卢浮宫的画作中。但如果你在巴黎不尝试当地的美食，那你可就错过了一大部分乐趣。美食在法国文化中扮演着非常重要的角色，实际上它如此的重要，以至于2010年联合国科教文组织宣布法国的用餐方式为一项非物质的文化遗产。像我经常说的一样，要更好地理解一个国家，有一种方法就是尝试一切，或者是至少从一些巴黎最著名的美食开始。第一个要提到的当然就是牛角面包，价格实惠，但是难以忘怀。像一个真正的巴黎人一样开始你的一天，早餐的时候品尝一份全奶油的牛角面包。牛角面包虽然看起来简单，但是要做出这些完美的脆皮点心需要一些时间，有时候甚至是几天和一整套技能才能完美的制作。不管你是在喝咖啡、橙汁还是独自的享受，牛角面包都能让你的早晨变得更加美好。而且你不用担心错过宝贵的观光时间来坐下来吃早餐，因为在法国随时随地的享用比较快捷式的早餐是完全可以接受的。所以呢，你可以在任何地方来享用你的牛角面包。下面要提到的是蜗牛，这个呢是一种国家的象征。在品尝蜗牛之前，你绝对不能离开巴黎。在巴黎，他们以多种的方式来烹饪蜗牛，但是勃艮第风味的蜗牛仍然是最受欢迎的。蜗牛呢，呈现在它们的壳内，里面填充有大蒜、香草、黄油的美味组合。然而现在呢，蜗牛如此的受欢迎，以至于无数巴黎的餐馆都为这道菜加入了他们的创意。现在呢，可以找到有咖喱还有各种酱料的蜗牛。我个人呢，在巴黎没有吃过蜗牛，我在必胜客吃过蜗牛。下面要提到的美食呢，是马卡龙，艺术品一般的点心。 不要把马卡龙还有法国总统马克龙弄混了。马卡龙可能是法国糖果史上最美好的一件事情，它们的脆而松软的外壳由杏仁粉制成，内部充满了浓郁的美味。没有人确切的知道这些标志性的点心来自哪里，有些故事归根于凯瑟琳德美第奇的创意，另一些呢则归功于18世纪末的法国卡尔默会修道院。但不管你相信哪个版本的故事，马卡龙可能是当今巴黎最著名的美食之一。流行的口味包括开心果、巧克力、香草或者是覆盆子，还有一些更有创意的选择，比如咸奶油、焦糖、抹茶或者是玫瑰花瓣。说完马卡龙，下面要提到的是法式火腿三明治，顶级的巴黎街头美食。谁知道一个三明治可以尝起来如此的美味？对于这种备受喜爱的午餐小吃，简单才是关键。一个出色的法式火腿三明治全凭这3种食材的质量：巴黎火腿、黄油，当然还有美味脆皮的法棍面包。这是这道美食的魔法所在。但是因为食材的清单如此的简短，所以呢，值得确保每一个食材都是最高品质的。这意味着完美酥脆的法棍面包、上等的法国黄油以及正宗的巴黎火腿。说完了火腿三明治，下面要提到呢就是奶酪。前法国总统曾经问过，如何统治一个拥有246种奶酪的国家？我们没有答案，但是我知道拜访这样一个国家肯定会让人很开心。事实上，法国提供了超过300种奶酪品种，从奶香浓郁的布里莫城干酪到刺鼻的门斯特芝士。奶酪在法国如此备受推崇，以至于它甚至跻身餐点的一部分。传统上，奶酪通常在主菜还有甜点之间，有时候也替代后者上桌。而且欧洲人也喜欢把奶酪跟葡萄酒搭配一起享用。Last but not least， 洋葱汤，终极的疗愈美食。洋葱汤是巴黎的另一种著名美食。根据传说，这个食谱是近3个世纪前由路易15发明的。如今，焦糖化的洋葱还有牛肉高汤上面撒上松脆的面包丁，还有一片格吕伊尔奶酪，然后烤制而成。传统的法式洋葱汤的准备就是如此简单，它证明了法国人是多么的重视美食。还有哪个地方能够将千杯的洋葱提升到如此高的烹饪水平呢？再说一次 ，less is more。好，今天呢巴黎美食我就介绍到这里，希望大家喜欢。如果您去过巴黎，然后有吃过我在这个视频里没有提到过的美食，可以在评论区告诉我。希望大家有一个愉快的周日。这里是沙伦一报，我们下期节目再见。